Glenn Kelvin Hurley, CEO of Affinity Education Group.
I now invite you to make a short opening statement if you choose, and at the conclusion of any remarks, I will invite members of the committee to ask questions.
Chair, I don't have opening remarks. I'm happy to proceed with questions.
Thank you. I'll go first then to the Deputy Chair. Oh, wonderful. Okay. I'll go to Senator Hodgins-May.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for joining us today, Mr Hurley, although I must say that it is rather disappointing that this is our now fourth attempt to get answers to some pretty direct questions. And look, I'm disappointed on behalf of the committee, but more so disappointed on behalf of the families who I think really deserve to have you answer these questions directly without excuses, without referring us to other sources, but for you to provide the answers that our community deserves. I find it extraordinary that at the first initial hearing you weren't able to tell us, for example, how many compliance notices Affinity centres received last year, how many of your staff didn't have qualifications, and about your executives' remuneration. We did provide 2 more chances on notice for you to answer those questions, and your responses were quite frankly disingenuous and talking about data being only a point in time. And with respect, any data is just a point in time, and so I hope that you will be more forthcoming in your responses today. Mr Hurley, will you finally tell us how many compliance notices that Affinity received last year?
Senator, I will. Firstly, in response to your statement, we did not intend to avoid any questions. In fact, we remain committed to supporting the important work of the committee. And to that end, Affinity drafted and submitted a detailed submission that provided you with our perspectives on sector reform improvement. We have made ourselves available to attend hearings in person and have responded to questions on notice within the requested deadlines. We also replied to additional questions submitted by participating senators on other matters, and we're happy to do so in the interest of supporting the committee and in line with our commitment to openness and transparency. As has been consistently our position, we welcome reform and work with Parliament that results in improved safety outcomes for children, and we're committed to continuing to play our part in contributing to that. Our priority has consistently been
Thank you, Mr.
to
Hurley.
provide the committee with information.
A very limited window of time, so can I just bring you back to the direct question of how many compliance notices that Affinity received last year?
Certainly, Senator. Compliance actions, as you know, are formally assessed and recorded through the state regulators under the Education and Care Services Law. These records capture the nature, context and resolution of each matter.
Excuse me, could I just ask you to, as Senator Hodgins-May has indicated, we have a very short period of time. Are you able to answer the question directly of the actual number that Senator Hodgins-May has asked you? That's the second time she's asked you that question.
In the interest of supporting committee, our records indicate the number of compliance actions in 2025 was a total of 149 for the year across our network of approximately 250 centres.
And
in the current year to date, we've seen 30 compliance actions, which is tracking at the lower end of that range. And whilst it's still early in the reporting period, this is consistent with our targeted compliance and improvements that we've been implementing across the network.
Thank you for that response. And Mr Hurley, I'm going to try again also. Will you disclose your salary, including any bonuses, for the committee's information?
Senator, my salary is $625,000 per annum, with a bonus ability to earn up to 40% of that annual salary. The conditions on which that bonus is accessed, there must be quality and safety metrics that are met to achieve that, and that's in relation to any bonus. Any significant compliance event would preclude myself or anyone else from the executive from achieving that or accessing that bonus.
And will you tell us, please, how many of your staff have contact with children who don't? How many of your staff who have contact with children don't currently have qualifications?
Certainly, Senator. As you'd be aware, under the law, any team members who are working directly with children must hold a recognised qualification or actively be working towards one. At the current time, we do not have any staff who do not hold current qualifications. We do monitor very closely this at the centre level to make sure that qualifications and ratio requirements are met at all times, and we invest heavily in supporting educators to complete qualifications through our training programs, and this is what we really focus on internally within the organisation.
And I'll try again also, what proportion of centres receive inclusion support funding, with extra money to support kids with additional needs? In your previous so-called responses, you said a proportion of centres. Can you please provide specifics on that answer?
Certainly, Senator. The funding is linked to individual children, their needs, as you've laid out, and assessed by government on a case-by-case basis. At the current time, 97 centres have been successful in applying for and receiving ISS funding to support 251 children. As you'd also be aware, this funding goes directly to funding specialist support through wage subsidisation of educators and staff into the centres. The breakdown of that of those centres, of those 97 centres, is 48 centres in New South Wales, 39 centres in Queensland, 3 centres in Victoria, 3 in Western Australia, and 3 in the ACT. What I can also say is that where a child is eligible for support, our centres use the program in full compliance with the rules and the goal of supporting inclusion. The program's child-based rather than centre-based, and so that's why the number does move around as children come in and out of our care through enrolment periods and through the year as well.
Just noting on your website, it does say at Affinity Education, inclusion isn't a policy, it's a mindset that guides how we welcome families, support children and empower our educators every single day. Would you not say that this is a relatively small number of services receiving ISP? And, do you think that that's a genuine claim on your website based on that figure,
Senator,
97 centres nationally?
So, Senator, that is the number that receive the inclusion support funding. The approach in terms of our curriculum and the approach of inclusion of children within the centre is a mindset and an approach, and it's not precluded or 100% sort of locked down on whether or not we actually receive that funding. At times there can be children in the centre that through the process of assessment and working with families, that process is undergoing, and we're awaiting funding and assessment through the different state and government assessment processes. So we do work to that approach in our centres, and the funding of those centres, of the 97 centres and 251 children, is what is in place as I sit here today. As I said, that number increases and changes across time as those different pieces come through.
Will you tell the committee, please, how many Affinity centres have closed over the last 5 years?
Certainly. Firstly, our focus at Affinity is operating services and improving quality across the existing network. And it is true, from time to time, individual centres have been transferred to another operator or closed. Those decisions are made on a case-by-case basis and driven by operational community considerations.
Just the figure.
Yes.
Mr Hurley, I'm happy to entertain a brief explanation, but I'm not happy to entertain a preamble around we understand why centres may close or be sold. If you could please answer the questions directly.
Certainly, Chair. In the past 5 years, 5 centres have been sold to other providers, specifically 3 in 2023 and 1 each in 2024 and 2025. A further 7 have been transferred to other providers.
Thank you. And are you able to provide the committee with information about how many of these centres were due to quality and safety concerns rather than commercial viability?
The centres of the 7 that were transferred, there were 4 that we made the decision that we could not operate that, and basically made the decision to transfer those due to the fact that we didn't consider we were the best provider to be able to meet the expectations.
And the other 3 then presumably quality and safety, or?
No, due to unable to get the correct staff in place and be able to meet those operational needs outside of quality and safety.
As an additional question, can you tell me how many of your staff have initiated investigations or disciplinary action in the last year?
No, I didn't come prepared for that detailed question. Senator, do you mean in respect to internal process, or do you mean in regards to external complaints?
Yes, internal.
I don't have that figure, I'm sorry.
If it is possible to fairly imminently provide it to the committee, as well as how many staff have been terminated, we'd be grateful for that information. And look...
Certainly. Yes, and do you mean, just on that, in terms of terminated, do you mean have the turnover of staff, or do you mean terminated as a result of investigations?
As a result of investigations. Terminated as a result of investigations.
Certainly.
And look, our bells are ringing here to go to the chamber. I appreciate you responding to some of these questions today. I'm still very perplexed as to why it's taken us 4 attempts to get these answers. And I appreciate the Chair. Thank you for calling this additional meeting. We'll suspend briefly.
We'll suspend briefly. Thank you. Oh, do you want to do that? Yeah? Okay.
Let's swap around.
Yep. If we will resume the hearing. Is Mr. Hurley online? Thank you. Thank you very much. I have a brief question before I go to the Deputy Chair, before we return to Senator Hodgins-May and then Senator O'Sullivan at the end. Would you be able to confirm for me whether you've indicated your salary and your bonus potential? Could you tell me if you got a bonus in the last financial year, and if so, what percentage bonus you received?
Chair, I've been in this position since October 2025.
Yep.
So this is the first year.
Your first year.
And I've moved into this cycle. Yes.
So, are you able to tell me if the previous person in your role, the previous CEO, if they received a bonus?
I'm not aware if they received a bonus or not.
If you can provide that information to us on notice, thank you. Senator Smith.
Yeah, Mr. Hurley, at the hearing on the 23rd of February, you told our committee that you were personally committed to doing everything in your power to honour the trust that families place in you through transparency and accountability. Yet we've had to put questions on notice to you twice and now hold a special Senate hearing just to get answers to questions which other firms have provided straight off the bat. This is a serious process, and we have serious rules here in the Senate, and I have doubts about your commitment to transparency given the process we've just had to go through. So the Chair might tell me that's a comment, not a question, but I do just want to reaffirm it's all members of this committee who are experiencing a great deal of frustration. We're due to present our report soon, and this hearing only exists because you didn't answer our questions.
If it were to be a comment, it's supported by the rest of the committee.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Senator Hodgins-May.
I think Senator O'Sullivan wanted to ask a brief question.
Yes, thank you. So I just want to know, given that Affinity recorded more than 1,700 regulatory breaches between 21 and 24, what was the rationale behind replacing area and operation managers with lesser number of regional managers?
So certainly since coming into place as the CEO, it's very clear, and it's been very clear to me that we needed to change the way that we work because performance was not appropriate, and very much the changes in the structure with improvements, including the appointments of people with a greater operational regulatory experience with a strong safety on focus, a strong safety focus, and also supporting each of the areas, the state areas that we have, with greater expertise in terms of quality and other support functions was one of the things that I was very keen to do to make sure that I delayered the number of people between myself and leadership and the centres so that we're acutely aware of what is happening and we can respond to any concerns, to concerns that are raised, but then also to understand in a more proactive way what is happening in the centres and to be able to provide resources and responses and support to those centres. So that is, in essence, the reason for the changes, and the changes have also made sure that we've placed people from what was a central team into the relevant hubs to support centres in a more hands-on way.
Sorry, finish what you're saying and I'll follow it up.
So that's alongside the investment in the quality and compliance and regulatory side of things through our training, which I've talked to the committee about before, are reasons as to why we made those changes and to ensure that we make a better start and we have a better performance as a provider.
So just so I understand your evidence correctly, have you in any way reduced your capacity to address the regulatory breaches in terms of dealing with the volume that you have received? And then because if you thinned out that area and regional management, has that in any way impacted your ability to address the matters?
Senator, if I understand your question correctly, we have removed some of those layers, delayered, to make sure that any challenges that come through the different reporting mechanisms and information that's collected are quickly understood and then resources allocated back out to the centres to support them. We've continued to maintain the centralised reporting functions and management of all regulatory matters that sits and continues to sit centrally through our incident support team in Brisbane and the regulatory function there, and we've bolstered that with both capability and expertise.
Just final one, Chair. How many area and operation management roles have been redistributed under the change?
There has been between 10 and 15.
Okay.
Thank you. Senator Hodgins-May.
Thank you, Chair. Just to quickly check on waivers, you've finally given us the data on early childhood teacher waivers. Can you please tell us how many of your centres are operating with a waiver for staffing ratios and how many are temporary and how many are long-term? I don't believe you gave us an exact figure in your answer, so hoping to get that.
Certainly. You just have to give me a moment while I get that information. Sorry, Senator, I thought I did provide that through the questions on the numbers of waivers in the response.
I think you gave ECT waivers. I'm asking about staffing ratio waivers.
So all the waivers that we have are teacher waivers, as in the ECTs that we have been unable to find. We have staff in place to those, so it's the waiver for the teacher as opposed to a waiver on a ratio.
Okay. And just to confirm my understanding of your previous answer, you're saying, hang on. Oh, yeah, you currently have 0 staff who are interacting with children who are working towards a qualification. You're saying they all have a qualification?
Yes.
They all of your staff have a qualification?
Yes.
Across all of your centres? Okay.
Yes.
Finally, Mr Hurley, I was just reflecting on what you told the committee about your $600,000 salary, potentially upwards of $750,000 with bonuses. This is, of course, funded through the fees parents pay to attend your centres, as well as the childcare subsidy, which is public money. Meanwhile, I believe a newly qualified Cert 3 educator might make barely $200 a day. I wonder if you have any comments on how you reconcile this obscenely high salary while your centres continue to record hundreds of compliance notices a year.
I take my role and responsibility very seriously, and I understand that my salary is a high salary, both within when compared to educators and the front-facing people in our organisation. I do genuinely take my responsibilities seriously and do everything that I can and will do in the future to make sure that our record improves to meet community expectations and, quite frankly, my expectations of the level of education, safety and care that we deliver to families each day. And I do hold myself to account on that, and the chairman and board have been very clear on those expectations, and what's gone before in Affinity has not been good enough and won't be accepted into the future.
Well, by virtue of the fact that we are having this additional hearing, I think each of us have questioned how seriously you do take that role. And just urge you on behalf of the committee, but more importantly on behalf of families right across the country, to do better and to front up with the information when you're asked, and to be as transparent as you can possibly be, given that you have been at the centre of what has been a crisis that has seriously devastated this nation and families across the country. That's all from me, Chair.
Thank you so much, Senator Hodgins-May. Do any other senators have questions?
No.
That concludes today's hearing. Thank you for your appearance, Mr Hurley, and thank you to Hansard and Broadcasting and Secretariat for their assistance. A reminder that the responses to, I believe there was one question on notice, but there may have been more, should be provided by close of business, Friday the 27th of March 2026, that is this Friday. The committee stands adjourned. Thank you.